Hey guys, it's Shadow the Rat, and for today's video, unfortunately I have to tell you that my girls Blueberry and Tater Tot have been put to sleep. So both girls were very old, and even though both had been healthy for a lot of their life, unfortunately they started to develop some health issues that just made it so that their quality of life wasn't what it used to be, and it was clear that it was going to continue decreasing, and it just wasn't fair to put them through that. In the case of Tater Tot, she was a little over 3 years and 2 months, so quite old, and I mentioned before that she had a Zimbel's gland tumor. And unfortunately, these are terminal cancers in rats. There is technically one treatment, but it's inaccessible to pretty much anyone. So unfortunately, that's not really an option for most of us. And instead, all you can do is palliative care until that starts to just not be enough. And at that point, the rat will have to be put to sleep. And that's exactly what I did with Tater Tot. She was on palliative care for a few weeks. But her tumor was starting to spread all across her jaw, and once she started to scratch and paw at the area where her tumor was, even with all her palliative care pain meds and anti-inflammatories on board, I knew at that point that her quality of life was dipping and that I needed to let her go. So that's what happened with Tater Tot. As far as Blueberry goes, Blueberry was a little over 2 years and 10 months, so also pretty old. And she was pretty healthy up until about 2 years and 7 months when she started to develop a mammary tumor. Because Blueberry was so old, I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do treatment-wise, because usually I will get these tumors removed because they're typically just benign mammary tumors, and they don't really cause the rat any issues or pain or anything like that until they get too big and start to affect their ability to get around or start to ulcerate, which is obviously really awful. But anyways, in the case of Blueberry, even though she hadn't had any health issues up until that point, she had been showing signs of slowing down and kind of showing her age even before the tumor developed. So I didn't feel like it was fair to put such an old rat who was clearly slowing down through a surgery and potentially have her final weeks be spent recovering from that surgery. Not to mention, of course, the fact that with older rats, you do have more risks when it comes to surgery. And so we decided to try her on cabergoline instead. And cabergoline is a type of medication that can stop the growth of or shrink certain types of tumors, specifically hormonally driven tumors. And I've had good luck with it in the past, using it for both mammary tumors and pituitary gland tumors. So I tried it with Blueberry, but unfortunately her tumor did not respond and it just continued to grow. And in addition to that, Blueberry was very stressed whenever I had to give it to her. And the reason for that is because cabergoline tastes awful. And you literally can't hide the taste. Like, you can't get the rat to take it willingly. It's always something that has to be forced. And if you've given it long term, which I have, I've given it for up to nearly 11 months with one of my rats, then the rat does tend to get used to the taste a little bit, and they stop getting quite as worked up about it. But it does typically take a few weeks for that to happen and for them to adjust. And that's even for rats that are really good at handling and really chill usually, like Blueberry was. But in Blueberry's case, because the medication wasn't necessary and because she was so old and showing signs of aging, and also the medication didn't seem to be working, I decided that after 3 weeks of trying her on cabergoline that it just really wasn't worth the stress on her or me. And so I decided to just take her off it and just have her live out the rest of her life with her tumor. And if necessary, have her put to sleep if it started to get too large and affect her quality of life. So since then, it's been 3 months. Like I said, Blueberry was a little over 2 years and 10 months, and this tumor popped up around 2 years and 7 months. And the tumor was growing all that time, not too quickly, but also not too slowly. So it was a little bit larger than a golf ball, and she was able to get around well with it. It was in a pretty good location, under one of her arms, but not directly under it, so it didn't really get in the way of her moving around, which is pretty typical for these tumors. They don't usually cause issues until they get too big. But a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, I want to say, I started to notice that Blueberry was having some issues getting around, which didn't make sense to me because the tumor still didn't seem large enough that it would cause issues. And that's when I realized that the problem was that Blueberry's hind legs were not working very well. And unfortunately, this is not uncommon in older rats, especially older males, but you can also see it in older females. And in Blueberry's case, her hind legs seem to be declining pretty quickly, which is not common with hind leg degeneration. So I suspected that her kidneys were probably not doing too well. And I tested her urine, and she did have some protein in her urine, which unfortunately usually means the rat is going through kidney failure. And there's really no treatment there. You can do some supplements to support the kidneys. You can make sure the food you feed is kidney friendly, low protein. And in Blueberry's case, with her already having this tumor, and then her hind legs starting to go out because of her kidney issues, and also just the kidney issues in general, and her just kind of slowing down, it was just clear that she wasn't feeling the best, and that she just wasn't doing as well as she used to. And then the final straw, about 2 weeks back, was when I found another tumor that popped up next to her genitals. And this one was very small, like the size of a pea, maybe half the size of a pea. But the problem is that that location is very sensitive, and even a small tumor in that location can quickly start to cause problems. And this was also about the time when I started to notice Blueberry having some issues maintaining weight. Just with normal food, so I had to start supplementing her. So all in all, it was pretty obvious to me that her quality of life just wasn't what it used to be. And honestly, like I said, she had been declining energy-wise for a while, and so ultimately I decided to have her put to sleep with Tater Tot. And both girls were pretty bonded as well, especially these last few months, so I feel like it was only fitting that they got to go out together. So yeah, that is what happened with Miss Blueberry and Tater Tot. Unfortunately, both girls were just very old, and they were just suffering from typical old age health issues. And that's just something you see with any species, but I think with rats in particular, it's kind of more in your face because they just age so quickly. But with that being said, both girls definitely lived a very good life, and a very long life, and I'm very grateful that I got to have them for as long as I did, especially considering that both girls were rats that I adopted as adults. And yeah, I'm very glad they got to go out together, and that they got to have a peaceful passing. And yeah, as awful as it is to make this sort of decision for them, I'm very glad that both girls are now at rest and not feeling any more pain or any of the unfortunately awful stuff that can come with old age. And yeah, that's pretty much it here. I just wanted to kind of go over what happened with both girls, especially with Blueberry, because I haven't done an update on her in a while. But yeah, both girls have now passed, and unfortunately that's just one of the things that you do end up having to do fairly often as a rat owner, because they just don't live very long. And if you have a lot of rats like I tend to, it means that you do usually have to make the decision to help, 1 or 2 rats pass every year this way, or maybe even more depending on your group size. And while it doesn't get easier per se, I think it gets kind of easier to at least recognize when they need to be helped over. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I will be posting these girls' tribute videos soon. Bye!